Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or over in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Stay Off My Lawn. It's February 28th. I know it's a day late. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday. Apologize for that. It is 2024, and this is episode 56.
Yoo-hoo, we just keep climbing the charts with another new number.
Another brand new hot hit from the Wax and Stacks. And so, how was your weekend? What'd you do? You had a big week last
5 minutes past the big hour of.
Hey, all you groovy guys, got a big date tonight? Got a zit in the middle of your forehead? Oh my gosh!
What was? Try me again here. Yes, Steve, you can welcome him back. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Steve. Go back to what you were doing. He just wanted to welcome you back. It's nice to have you here. You're almost sounding like you again, and we appreciate that.
I'm feeling a little bit more like me, so yeah, it's very good, very good. So you had a trip recently.
Oh yeah, I had a traveling for a 1-year-old's birthday party.
It's a great granddaughter. What are you going to do?
Yes, well, it's the first granddaughter of my middle daughter's child. That is my granddaughter that had a beautiful little great granddaughter. She is just, she was passed around like a sack of potatoes this weekend. Never complained about it. Certain people, she would just kind of sit there for a little bit and then somebody else would go by and she'd want to go to them or whatever. But I got to read a story to her. The Wonky Donkey it's pretty funny.
I'll have to look that one up.
And I didn't notice, took a lot of pictures. She did the typical 1-year-old thing where the granddaughter got her a little small cake and sat in front of her, and she started getting into the things and found out, ooh, this tastes pretty good. She was being like a typical girl that doesn't want to be dirty. She got into it and then was going, I can't get this stuff off my hands, off the cake and the frosting. And then she just put a fistful in her mouth and went, sat down, took off the plastic off the bottom, took the cardboard piece off the bottom, and just started chowing in.
There you go. That's what I still do, and I'm almost 60. So, but she loves her great grandpappy, though, doesn't she? She snuggles right up to you.
She snuggles in. We were at a very nice, we got spoiled by the weather. It was 83 degrees on Sunday, and we had dinner outside at a fancy resort restaurant. I don't know. The prices weren't horribly bad, but it was very nice. We had a table with 15 of us around.
Oh, wow.
So there was a bunch of relatives and stuff there. So, and then she didn't get too fussy. My goodness, we sat there for almost 2.5 hours. Awesome. 2 hours. Yeah. So we were there a long time, and she was getting a little tired toward the end. So I picked her up and was holding her, and she was looking, since it was outside, she could see lights and stuff. And then she's got her head down on my shoulder and she's talking to me, telling me about the lights, I guess. I don't know, but all of a sudden I'm hearing, oh, really? Well, isn't that nice?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, and then I didn't notice until I hadn't looked at all the pictures until yesterday, the traveling back and forth and Allegiant Air. Then you talk about putting sardines in a can. Oh my God, the seats you're just sitting shoulder to shoulder with everybody and not big people.
Yeah.
It horrible on my knees. I'm a whopping 5'5", and my knees are about 3 inches from the seat in front of me.
Oh my gosh.
Can't imagine somebody else.
Imagine somebody 6'5" or something.
That's what we were talking. Is like, this ain't going to be good. Gee. But anyhow, I was looking at all the pictures and went, she almost looks like she's got fake eyelashes on.
Aw.
They are so long and curled. And I used to have people talk about my eyelashes when I was a kid. I remember
I was the same.
God,
yeah.
So I must have passed it on to one of my girls.
But it stopped. I mean, they fell out or something because my eyelashes are not long like they used to. I remember my uncle picking on me because my long eyelashes, and I was about 5 years old. I'm like going, what? I can't help what they are, you know?
I'm not going to take a pair of scissors and go snip, snip, snip.
Exactly. I thought about it because I hated that he made fun of me, but yeah. Oh, well, that's great. That's great. A little trip
Yeah,
to
it was,
Arizona.
and you had a wonderful event yesterday. You went from bias ply tubes to you're now.
That's right. I can run
You're
50
now
miles
a
on a
radio
flat now.
tubeless.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They took the stomach tube out. Man, that's the feeding tube. And when they finally clipped all the sutures out and they started pulling, I was like, it was a foot into me. I mean, this tube was a foot long. They pulled out, and it was, I got to be honest, it was kind of stinky when they pulled it out. I was like, yeah. But anyway, then they pulled the PICC line out, which I didn't even feel that one. But I am untethered 100% now, so it makes taking a shower a lot easier. You can just take the bar soap and kind of like rub everything real quick and get it all rinsed off. And I had to be careful before because I was ripping sutures out of myself by trying to, I know, but I just, showers shouldn't last more than 5 minutes. You get in there, you wash everything, you make sure nothing stinks anymore, and you get back out, and it should be a quick thing. And it just took too long. I almost didn't look forward to it. And I've always looked forward to taking a shower every morning, but now I'm back at that again. So, and I got a green light to go start exercising again. So that's a positive thing for me because it's almost like a drug. I mean, if you haven't really done it like a regimented thing at a gym, then you may not understand. But it can be an addictive feeling that you get when you go and work out. So without it, I've felt like I've just they've kept the drugs away from me, and I'm going through withdrawals. So, yeah, I feel better. I feel better. I'm going to go back to the gym tomorrow and take it very slow. But I got to do something. I lost 20 pounds. I need to do something.
You're back. You're on the mend and
Yep.
looking good. And Steve interrupted me, and I forgot to hit the timer for the first segment.
That's okay. I got a timer on my side. I'm good on this one.
Oh, for the first one, yeah.
Hey, did you hear there's a wisdom of the week? I don't have I don't have my Irish precursor to this one, but anyway, Uncle Joe had some wisdom from this week, and here's what that sounded like.
Because we cannot get reelect, we cannot win this reelection. Excuse me, we can only reelect Donald Trump.
So, I mean, there's that. We can only reelect Donald Trump, which is okay with me.
I agree with him 100%. I think that's just absolutely spot on.
One of the first things I've agreed with him 100% on. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Lordy.
Well,
seriously?
Speaking of Uncle Joe, I'm pretty sure another record was broken last week. Is the 24th incident of Uncle Joe's and Dr. Jill's dog Commander bit someone. They bit members of the Secret Service 24 times since he has moved into the White House, and I think that's pretty. I don't know, but this is how The View had to talk about it, which kind of disturbed me.
Welcome back. A Secret Service report was just released about a Biden family member who's caused a lot of controversy at the White House. Yeah. Their dog. His name is Commander. The report found that there were at least... This is a lot. 24 incidents of him biting folks.
24?
Well, it makes you wonder, what did he see that nobody else saw?
Yeah, right?
Look. Okay, look. Look at him.
Uh-huh.
He is standing there.
You must have missed the 24 bite part of this story when you all...
He's saying something.
He's cute.
He's like, I know you got something in your pocket.
Yeah, we see it.
I don't know what it is. You can say it's your hand, but let me check.
Yeah.
And he checked, and it was the guy's hand.
I have a question for the Republicans. How can we blame this on Hunter Biden? There's got to be a way.
Well, I mean, I guess you could blame it on Hunter Biden if he gives him a little bit of cocaine, a little bit of something. The dog gets a little excited. I mean, it's funny that they think it's funny unless you're one of the 24 people that gotten bit. That's not very funny at all to me.
These are not little dogs, aren't these
No,
German Shepherds?
he's a German Shepherd. And those
I don't
bites,
think he's a
they're not little nibbles. Not like,
No, is he? Are they still bringing him in the White House?
I'm assuming. I mean,
What the hell?
24 times. I think that's.
I hadn't heard that. That was I'd heard of 4 or 5 bites at a Secret Service. 24.
And maybe my memory just doesn't serve me, but I don't remember any previous dog in the White House biting anybody, even once. Excuse me. So I don't remember any of that. I mean, I think the Bushes had a dog the whole time. I don't think he ever bit anybody.
Yeah, I've not heard of. I mean, they've had several different dogs of different kinds or whatever. Nobody's ever bit anybody that I know of.
No, but I mean, it just gets blown off, whatever. Speaking of The View, though, Dr. Phil is doing a media roundup type thing because I guess he wrote a book and he's promoting the book, which that's how people promote the book. They go on all these different things. But on Monday, he was on The View, and the subject of our country's response to COVID came up. And it seemed to upset those ladies, and I'm using that phrase very loosely, quite a bit with the facts. And here's how that went.
And COVID hits 10 years later, and the same agencies that knew that are the agencies that shut down the schools for 2 years. Who does that? Who takes away the support system for these children? Who takes them away and shuts it down? And by the way, when they shut it down, they stopped the mandated reporters from being able to see children that were being abused and sexually molested, and in fact sent them home and abandoned them to their abusers with no way to watch, and referrals dropped 50 to 60%. So
there was also a pandemic going on. They were trying to save
kids' lives. Remember, we know a lot of folks who died during this. So it wasn't, people weren't laying around eating bond, but, well, you know what? We're lucky. Maybe we're lucky they didn't, because we kept them out of the places that they could be sick, because no one wanted to believe we had an issue.
Are you saying no school children died of COVID?
I'm saying it was the safest group. They were the less vulnerable group, and they suffered and will suffer more from the mismanagement of COVID than they will from the exposure to COVID. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
He got a big round of applause after that, which I think speaks volumes. Even with the View audience, they agreed with what he had to say.
The people who ran out and got their kids vaccinated because they said it was safe are now having all kinds of issues.
Yeah.
I've seen where a young lady who was healthy and was playing sports couldn't even walk anymore. She's starting to be able to walk again, but they're having to do stuff to neutralize the mRNA that went in her body, and it didn't react well, and it doesn't react well. They had more deaths from the vaccine than they had from actual COVID.
Absolutely. But, the one thing that kind of struck me on this clip was, how devoted to the narrative that COVID was just so deadly. And I mean, they say they know bunches of people who died. I'm not going to doubt that. But I don't know any. Barbara and I were talking about this yesterday when we were listening to this clip. And it's like, I don't know anybody that died from COVID. I know people that died with COVID. And that was another thing, how they fudged the numbers. And we've talked about that many times in the past. Yeah. But I don't know anybody that died because of COVID. I know people that have gotten sick, very, very sick. Most of those people, probably 90-something% of those people were all vaccinated and boosted. But everybody I know I just don't know anybody that's died with COVID or died from COVID, from the symptoms.
Well, when they died from it in the hospital, the stuff that they were doing shouldn't have been being done.
Right.
And then the doctors that went, hey, we used hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, and boom, they were cured, and then out the door, and no big deal. Didn't put them on ventilators, any of that. All that did was exacerbate the issue.
Sure.
And when the doctors tried to talk about that, because it was cheap drugs that are already out there, pharma didn't like that, and they were some of them had their medical licenses revoked, and it's like, what are you doing? I mean, we've been living in a third world country for the last 3 years.
And didn't So I'm sorry. Didn't the Biden administration make it illegal to prescribe ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, especially off-label use, which would be for COVID? I mean,
Yeah.
to me, that's
They rounded it all up and put it in a warehouse somewhere so that nobody could get at it
Yeah.
because they were getting it in Florida a bunch, and they went, "Oh, no, you can't do that."
I had a guy that I was in my small group when COVID first came out, and he ended up getting sick with it. And his doctor told him, "Is to go to the store, buy yourself some vitamin C, some zinc, and vitamin D3." He says, and just kind of like take that every 8 to 12 hours. And he said within 2 days he was feeling much better, and he was kind of a heavy guy, and he wasn't necessarily Mr. Healthy, but
Mr.
I mean,
Universe.
it turned it around. I mean, and that was the doctor. At least the doctors in my area, and probably in your area the same way, we're not buying into this whole thing. Pfizer, I think, was the one that came out with that super expensive treatment for it too. So they were getting it on both ends. They had the vaccine, and I think that's the one they gave Trump when he was in the hospital with COVID. But anyway, Dr. Phil ruffled some feathers, and even though those feathers are dirty, it was kind of funny to watch. Anyway, we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about something else Uncle Joe said last week, and I think you'll like that. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned for more of the stay off my lawn, but the thing. Anyway, they'll be right back.
Born from the tragedy of 9/11, the Tuttle to Towers Foundation carries out its mission to do good by providing mortgage-free homes to Gold Star and fallen first responder families with young children, and by building specially adapted smart homes for catastrophically injured veterans and first responders. They are also committed to eradicating veteran homelessness and helping America to never forget September 11th, 2001. And according to Charity Navigator, 95 cents out of every dollar donated goes directly to these programs. $11 a month is all they ask for to help these real-life American heroes. Visit T2T.org to find out more. That's T2T.org. Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 2, and we're gonna jump right into another thing that Uncle Joe had to say.
Wisdom of the week.
Yes, that's his. This is another wisdom of the week. There's a lot of things politicians are famous for. Buying votes is a big one, and Uncle Joe said this last week.
Early in my term, I announced a major plan to provide millions of working families with debt relief for their college student debt. Tens of millions of people in debt were literally about to be canceled, their debts. But my MAGA Republican friends in the Congress, the elected officials, and special interests stepped in and sued us. And the Supreme Court blocked it. But that didn't stop me. I announced we were going to pursue alternative paths for student debt relief for as many borrowers as possible. And that's the effort that's been underway the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Just because the Supreme Court said no and Congress said no, I mean, what...
Well, Congress said no because the Constitution says no, you don't have the right to do that.
And that's why the Supreme Court said no.
And appropriations comes from Congress, not from the president.
Yep.
He has no right to be doing that, and he didn't check with anybody, and it's like, the Constitution's just an old piece of paper. Who gives a rat's? It's like, no, that's not how it works. And I'm tired of them blaming the Republicans when there is a perfectly good bill that's being put through, and all of a sudden the Dems get a hold of it and fill it full of pork.
Yep.
Something that was maybe still outrageously $500 million ends up being $2 billion with all the pork.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's the Republicans' fault. No, you're the ones who did this.
And that's been their tactic for many, many years. It's like they'll throw extra stuff in there to the point to where the Republicans say no, and then they'll go, well, the Republicans said no on the original thing that bill was for, and it's like that's not even close to being factual.
It just irritates it. Well, they've got the news media in their back pocket, and we will have a story on that real shortly as to it's not going to get any better.
Nope, sure won't. But I think this new tactic of his buying votes is going to be $1.2 billion. That was the first estimate I saw for these are taxpayer. I've got a friend of mine out in California. He wrote me a note, as a matter of fact, this morning, and was talking about, why in the world should everybody take care of a debt that you went into with an open mind? You knew what you were doing. So why in the world is it everybody else's obligation to pay that off? Why?
Yeah, you went into it with your own volition. You knew what was going on. It's going to cost this much for school. I saw some young lady was whining in her car. She's doing like multimedia marketing and all this kind of stuff. And she goes, and I'm being a waitress, and it pays more than actually doing the job that I paid $80,000 to go to school for.
Yeah.
It's like you need to be looking at things ahead of time and not just, I went to school for this, so I'm going to automatically get a job. They think they're going to get a company car and their own suite and whatever else it's not how it works, people.
And I was talking to my son about this just recently, and we were talking about doing factory work, which, I did all my life, mostly from 30 up until I retired. And that's what he does. He works for a tire factory. And it's like, you get paid pretty good doing those kind of jobs. Yeah, you're going to get dirty. Yeah, you're going to work overnight shift. Yeah, at least for a while. Yeah, you're going to get sweaty. Yeah, sometimes you're going to be cold. But you know what? If that's what you have to do to take care of your family, and that was my son's words when we were talking about that. It's like, this is what I have to do to take care of my family. He's got 2 little girls that he's got to take care of, and his wife has a good job. She does good. But it's like, in this day and age, you got to have 2 incomes, and you got to have good insurance, which, you work for a factory, they give you good insurance. So, I mean, you can't just expect to sit behind a desk wearing a nice suit or a nice whatever and expect that's going to pay the bills anymore. It's a rare thing anymore. I mean, I just because you might have a degree in business or whatever, it's rare for that to happen. When I was working at Budweiser, I worked with many people that had far advanced degrees, had their finance degrees and engineering degrees, and they were driving a forklift just like me. So,
yeah. I met the folks that went to school. There was a gentleman, and he was essentially a dispatcher for a short period of time. I put up dish satellites on people's houses for a while because, like you said, you got to do something.
Yeah.
And it was between things for what I was looking to do. And he goes, I went to school for blah, 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 and I'm just doing this. Well, welcome to the world.
Yeah.
You got to figure out what you want to do, where you want to do it at. And I'm like you, I ran laundry routes and trained people, and I enjoyed being out and about. I grew up on doing farm stuff, and nobody's looking over my shoulder. You take good care of the customers, and nobody bothered me.
Nope.
And, I had good numbers, and my customers loved me. I didn't lose them, and I was always growing. So they leave you alone.
Yeah.
Don't mess with something that's working. They were smart bosses. And then I went to work for another company that didn't do that, and it didn't go well.
And that's the thing. It's like, you're always going to run across those micromanagers, and it never works out well.
No.
But as far as this kind of thing goes, Inez Stepman, which I had not heard of her before, but she's the senior policy analyst for the Independent Women's Forum, and she was asked about this whole thing, and she gave a pretty good read on how all this works, and I was going to share that with you.
This is something we're going to keep seeing happen because this is so politically good for the Democrats. Last time when they were losing in a lot of polls in the midterms, right, they pulled out a student loan forgiveness plan that the Biden administration knew was going to be struck down by the Supreme Court, but they did it anyway as a political stunt. Here we are looking at like piecemeal forgiveness through cobbling together a variety of statutes. The Biden administration is going to keep doing this. The Democratic Party is going to keep doing this. In my view, it's incumbent on the Republican Party then to deal with this kind of debt crisis, and it is actually a debt crisis, by putting the bill where it belongs, which is with universities who have raised their prices astronomically over the last couple decades. A lot of their wealth, the universities, comes from taxpayer-backed programs like loans and grants. And of course, we know that the universities otherwise are pushing ideas that are destroying this country. So it's really a win-win. But Republicans, I think, are going to continue losing politically on this issue until they're willing to put this bill where it belongs with the universities.
Well, she had a real good grasp on that. I don't have anything negative to say about. She's going, this is what's happening because it's good for them. Kind of like, bringing in mail-in ballots from New York to take to Pennsylvania. Hey, it worked out well for them in Pennsylvania.
Sure did. But, it is kind of weird that everybody's graduating now with $100,000 or $200,000 in debt now. I mean, there's got to be some blame put on these universities, especially the ones with big football teams. It's like they've got so much money that, and then of course, if you're a graduate from that college, then, they're always asking for donations. They're asking for, they're always begging for money. So I don't understand where all that money is actually going. But and I'm not big on regulation, but man, something's got to be looked into.
Here's what the problem is. The amount of money it costs to go to college has exponentially gone way above any inflation rates that have happened because they did this guaranteed student loan so that you got somebody that went to school for maybe 2 years and they didn't finish school. They still got 2 years of college they got to pay for.
Yeah.
And the university is going to get that money whether you pay for it or not. And you cannot claim it in bankruptcy. It stays with you. It's worse than a medical bill.
Yeah.
And so they're guaranteed the money. So they just keep jacking things up. And, if you're going to do this class, you want this? Oh, well, that's going to cost you $100,000 in 4 years. What? Why?
And I saw another stat too, that 70% of people who start college don't finish, which I thought that was just outrageous too. I mean, I don't know. It's all a big scam. If you're a young person now, just take a look around and see about trade schools, look at the military. I mean, the military's gone off the rails a little bit, but I mean, there's still some good options in the military to where you can learn a skill. But I think that's going to be the future for people that are, for our middle class anyway, for us going forward is to learn a skill and not worry about going to college and saddling yourself with all this huge debt that, like Richard just says, going to follow you around forever.
And I've always been someone, you mentioned that about the military. I'm going, I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. Go in the military for a 4-year stint or whatever it is. It's 4 years. Well, that ain't very much when you're young.
No.
You got it done. Now you have the money. If you want to go to college and be paid to go to college, you've got the funds there enough to, if you pick the right kind of university that's not raking you over the coals, and you can get the degree you want for what it is you have an interest in, if you really want to do that. If you don't really want to, shut up and quit complaining about it. Go get a job somewhere else.
Live in your mom's basement. Do what you got to do, but and a lot of branches have a great GI Bill, and the incentives are out there right now because they can't get enough people. Anyway, we've beaten that dead horse so much now. George Soros and his son are about to make a big American purchase.
Speaking of dead horses.
Speaking of dead horses, he looks like he's been beaten about the head and shoulders. The second largest broadcaster in America, which is 220 stations, next to iHeartRadio, is Odyssey. He's looking to buy Odyssey. Now Odyssey has, and Richard and I were talking about this off the air. We had not really heard of Odyssey before, but being the second largest broadcaster in America, that kind of tells you that they are a big player in this game, but they've built themselves up $1.9 billion in debt. They've gone into bankruptcy protection. So Soros saw an opening, and he's going after them. A side note, too, Soros last year bought 50 independent American Spanish-speaking stations. He's up to something. He's up to something which is not good.
I don't understand this. I guess they think that it works. I mean, to a degree, those that are lefties and don't look any place else, you and I both look I know you don't, but I want to see what the left is doing. I actually will look at some of the headlines and what they're pushing on MSN, which sometimes makes you nauseous.
Yeah.
After about 10 minutes, it's like,
Keeps the weight
that
off
is
you, though.
not what happened.
Yeah.
The spin and the change they do is like, what?
I know.
And people who are listening to that and CNN, you can tell because they spew exactly what those people and those stations are putting out. But most of your conservatives are ignoring all of the nobody watches the local news anymore. They're all struggling big time because they're pushing this lefty agenda, and the local people in conservative areas, they're not listening to it. I don't care. I'm not hearing it anymore. I'm not going to tune in because I don't care.
And thankfully, at this point, iHeartRadio owns Premier Networks, and Premier Networks are the ones who have the ownership of a lot of the conservative talk radio. Sean Hannity, Clay and Buck, Jesse Kelly, a lot of those people. So as far as the base of the conservative talk radio, now a lot of the local conservative talk radios, they may be going away because, if they're owned by Soros, I can't imagine that free speech is going to be a big part of that. But as of right now, iHeart is still doing a good job hanging on to all that stuff. And I know iHeart is a sore spot for a lot of broadcasters in the last 5-10 years. They've laid off a bunch of broadcasters. But in a business, if you look at it in a business way, they've made it to where they're extremely profitable and they're doing well. So in one way, you can say that they've done a good job keeping Soros off their front porch. But if the whole Odyssey thing isn't bad enough, a Singapore investor is trying to take over Cumulus Media, which is formerly the ABC radio network. That is America's third largest broadcaster. So we are going to be owned by foreign people. As far as radio goes, like I said, I hope that iHeart stays profitable and doesn't get all that, get close to getting taken over like that.
Well, and then you've got Sirius XM that they've just laid off a whole bunch of people because they went uber woke and they're having trouble keeping people listening to Sirius XM.
I hadn't even heard that. Yeah. Well, they combined Sirius and what was the other one?
Sirius XM.
Oh yeah, XM was the other one. Yeah. So
they combined, and now they're the last I heard, they laid a whole bunch of people off, and they have a lot of the podcast, and so I don't know. And
for my money, though, I've always wondered why in the world people go with Sirius XM. I understand if you're a truck driver or whatever, and you don't want to run out of. But I mean, with iHeart or even Intune, there's a bunch of apps out there where you can get your favorite radio station streamed through the internet, and you don't need to pay for any of this stuff. And I'm not a big music listener anymore. I normally listen to talk radio or podcasts or whatever.
Same here.
So, I mean, to me, iHeart, I've got an iHeart app, and that's what I use in my truck all the time. I don't mess around too much. Real quick before we go to break, all the while the FCC now is forcing all broadcasters to start posting a race and gender scorecard on the demographics of their workforce. The courts have overturned similar. The courts have overturned similar things that the FCC has tried like this twice in the past. And we may wonder, why is that a big deal? But people still listen to radio. Recent polling suggests that 80% of people still listen to the radio. So hopefully,
diversity, equity, and inclusion is not working.
It's racist, if you ask me. I mean,
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're forcing people to say, "Well, I got to have 3 more black people and 1 more Hispanic, or I'm not going to make it to the end of the month," I mean, that's just stupid. That's just stupid. Hire somebody that has a brain and can and has broadcasting skills. Who cares what color they are, or who cares what country they were born in? Just put those people on the air. It still blows me away.
Black, purple, orange, pink, green, red, yellow, don't care.
It blows
if
me
they're
away.
Competent to do the job, that's who you hire.
Yep. Yeah. Anyway, we're up against that break. We're actually over. It's my fault. But when we come back, we're going to listen to Jake Tapper from CNN. He was recently interviewing greasy Gavin Newsome, and he had some interesting things to say. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
It's all about common sense and fun We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear. Call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Hi, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn. Segment 3. We are past halftime. Even though we went so far over, we're way past halftime. As a matter of fact, Jake Tapper, one of my favorite CNN people, tongue directly in cheek for that one. He recently interviewed California Governor Greasy Gavin Newsome, and he was asked to weigh in on Nikki Haley's campaign. He said some things I thought were very interesting and a little disturbing. Let's see if you feel the same way.
Joining me now to discuss is California Governor Gavin Newsome, a Democrat. He met with President Biden and other governors at the White House today. Governor, thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
So South Carolina Republicans are headed to polls tomorrow. Polls show Donald Trump substantially leading former Governor Nikki Haley. Do you think, I know you want Joe Biden to win, do you think that Haley or Trump would be easier to beat for him?
Well, first of all, I think she's one of our better surrogates, so I hope she stays in. I hope she does well tomorrow.
All the nasty stuff she says about Trump.
She's spot on 99% of it. So I'm enjoying this primary, and I hope it continues. So I wish her luck. But look, Trump's the nominee. We all know that. You know that. Everybody out there knows that. And I think the polls are suggestive. She's going to get well up tomorrow, and then she'll make a case, I guess, just to continue in this. But again, I have no problem with her continuing for as long as she wishes, because I think she's making a good case against Trump.
Head-to-head polls suggest that she would clean Biden's clock, and it's a tougher race.
Trump's the nominee. Everybody knows Trump's the nominee.
So
there's not a state that, with respect, there's no evidence to suggest, there's no polling to suggest, there's nothing to suggest, momentum or otherwise, that she can win any state in the Republican primary coming up. So it's just not. Donald Trump is the nominee. Everybody knows that. No, I don't mean that to be dismissive. I have respect for the former governor, a lot more than the former president, Donald Trump. But as I said, I wish her luck in the context of being out there and making the case that we're making against Donald Trump equally.
The word surrogate kind of got me.
Yeah, she's our best surrogate because, the only reason she has any sort of numbers, like in New Hampshire, was if you took out Democrats who came in, changed their party temporarily, is the word being used, to Republican, she would have only had 7% of the vote.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. And in her own home state, which this was done before, I think they did South Carolina. The latest numbers I saw was 35 to 65%. Yeah, she only lost by 30 points in her own state.
Yeah.
Nobody wants anything to do with her. And again, you had a lot of Democrats switch over to the Republican Party so they could vote in the Republican primary and then switch back. There's only certain states you can do that.
I know. Yeah. But that's why Gavin likes her, though, because he's taken all he's saying that Nikki's taken a lot of the focus that the Democrats don't even have to fight, because she's fighting him with the same tactics that the Democrats would fight for. They're saving money, they're saving time, they're hanging on to that money until the actual when it comes down to just Trump and Biden.
Calling her a surrogate is just right. She is a giant rhino. Where did she all of a sudden, she got done being the governor, and then she was in between governor and being in the UN. She made like $20 million to be a, what do you call it, consultant with military
contractors
like Raytheon, that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden she's worth $20 million. How did that
Yeah.
happen?
And Vivek actually pointed that out in one of the debates. And the one nice thing that Vivek brought to the table is he did all his homework on everybody. And yeah, she was, he even said that she was kind of destitute when she left the governor's mansion. And so, yeah, it wasn't long after that. She all of a sudden became $20 million, worth over $20 million. It's like, yeah, that just doesn't seem. And of course, we've talked about the different people she's in bed with. Oh, the one thing, the Koch brothers have pulled their funding from her campaign.
Just recently, and now she's
yeah.
going, uh-oh. I'm hearing rumors that she might indeed pull out because she has no more funding.
I was going to say, there's nothing left. I mean, I think they were her biggest donors.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think it's funny that Gavin Newsom likes her, and
that's not
it's not a good
the
thing.
endorsement you want to have as a Republican. She is a Republican rhino with capital R. I mean, give me everybody sees it.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right. And that's why Trump keeps winning by double digits. Like you said, even in her home state, the first numbers I saw that she lost by 21. And you say now that he's seen that it's over 30.
It's pushing 30. Yeah. I just saw that the other day and I'm going, but I thought it was only 20. Well, bigger numbers, whatever.
And
final count type stuff. So
the rumor conspiracy theory now, and you and I were talking about this earlier, is that she's going to switch over to the Democratic Party and take over at the Democratic whatchamacallit, where we thought
candidate.
Yeah, whatever. We thought there was going to be Michelle Obama, but I don't know if Michelle Obama wants it.
I don't know that Big Mike can handle the media that might just all they've had is, oh, look, it's Michelle. Isn't that wonderful? That's all she's ever done.
Yeah.
Well, now when you start getting hard hitting stuff and people pounding on you, it ain't so pleasant anymore.
I don't think she has a temperament for it either. But if Nikki Haley switches over to the Democratic Party, I could see where she would get a lot of support. Much more than Biden's getting. Poor Biden can't put a sentence together. Maybe
he can't get out of his own way.
Well, maybe Hunter will be able to complete a sentence. But if he gets 7 years in prison, but we'll see. Anyway,
well, he's got experience then, right?
Exactly. And if we need a reminder of why everybody seems to, at least on the left, seems to hate Trump. Kevin Roberts, who's president of the Heritage Foundation, summed it up nicely at a recent seminar, and this is what he had to say.
So what is the real reason the establishment and the left oppose President Trump so ferociously? We know that they don't actually fear Trump as a danger to the country. After all, despite their wealth and privilege, the liberal establishment proudly condemns the United States as a backward, bigoted, vicious nation and a malevolent force in the world. From the 1619 Project to big tech censorship to open borders to their assault on religious freedom, they want to fundamentally transform America because they don't like this country. No, the establishment does not hate Donald Trump because he's a threat to America. Let's be really blunt. They hate him because he's a threat to them.
Yeah. See, there you go.
It's like he is not one of them. They can't buy him off. They can't try and manipulate him. And it's frustrating to him because he doesn't need you. You don't need to give me your money. I'm not that means of doing it. And it's driving them nuts.
Yep. Sure is. And that's what, when he was serving in his first term, that was the one thing that I thought was the best part about him, is that lobbyists couldn't come up and offer him anything that he didn't already have. So, I mean, he was doing things that he had promised. I mean, yeah, did he make a huge mistake? I had somebody write me something on Instagram the other day about the lockdowns, and that was Trump's fault. And I completely agree. I said, yep, that was a huge mistake. He handed the keys to the country over to Fauci, and that was the biggest mistake of his tenure as president, no doubt. So I lay the blame squarely on him for that. And you know, you got to be honest when it comes to your candidate, and nobody's perfect. We were dealing with something we didn't know anything about, and he trusted the wrong people.
And the other politicians, including the rhinos, don't want him running the country as a businessman because that cuts into their profits for what they're doing on stuff. And he's calling them out on all this crap that they're pulling, all the corruption and that, and they're going, whoa, you can't take away our corruption, Cal. We like that, Cal.
Yeah, it's making us a lot of money.
That's right. Yeah, and that's the biggest reason they don't like it is, well, he's going to go on and he's going to be a dictator. You mean like the one we have now that's trying to give away $1 billion for student loan debt? No.
Oh, all that's just fear mongering, though.
It's all conjecture and lies and made up. This is what's going to happen. They did it the last time he was elected. None of it happened. He only did what he promised he would do.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, when has he ever said he was going to be a dictator? When has anything that he's ever said has pointed you in that direction? That's totally made up. I mean, he's president. The way it's structured, the president can't be a dictator anyway.
No. And everything that's being done by the Democrats now is exactly what they're accusing him of going to be doing when they're already doing it. If you bother to take and look at stuff, it's like it's a pot calling the kettle black.
Absolutely.
I mean, give me a break.
You look at all the executive actions and everything that Biden has taken as compared to Trump, there's no comparison. Biden is much more acted like a dictator and say, I'm going to get my way whether Congress agrees with me or not. And he's pushed a lot of stuff. And just what we talked about earlier, the student debt relief thing. He's pushing this, even though the Supreme Court and Congress both said, stuff it. You're not going to get away with this. And he's still trying. It's buying votes.
I don't know. Where is he going to get the money from? Because it has to go through appropriations. You ain't getting it through appropriations right now. Not going to happen.
He's got something up, or his handlers have something up their sleeve, and I don't know what it is, but yeah, in my lifetime,
who knows
easily
what Obama's going to do next?
Yeah, exactly.
Wait.
Oh, Biden, yeah, something like that.
Oh, Biden, yeah. Did I say that part out loud? Like we didn't know. Hey, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have one more story, and then we'll have our palate cleanser. And so we're actually going to be under budget this week as far as time goes. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
If you're in our demographic, it might be a good time to go and pee. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Join the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to help light the night and bring hope. Light the Night is a nationwide event that brings communities together to honor, remember, and celebrate those who have been afflicted with blood cancers. Lift your lanterns high and help shine a path to a cancer-free future. Be a part of Light the Night and find your local event at lightthenight.org. Let's light up the night and make a difference together. That's lightthenight.org to get involved.
All right, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 4. We are on the final stretch.
Because I'm tired of all this.
Get the whip out, hit the butt a couple of times. We're on the final stretch. If you thought there was a little bit of common sense left on the West Coast, we talk about so much off the air. If you think there was any common sense left on the West Coast, this should settle it. I couldn't believe this was real. But the city of San Francisco is starting in October, I think it is starting to pay criminals not to commit crimes. Well, here's how
do you get this money? Do you go to them and say, I'm not going to commit a crime. I need my 500. Is that what you're going to?
Basically, I think that's how it was. Well, here's how the NBC affiliate in San Francisco reported on this story.
So Sharon, talk to us a little bit how this plan is actually going to work.
Well, Chris and Marcus, good morning. Yes, the chosen ambassadors will be paid not to shoot people, believe it or not. The city is launching the pilot program in October, paying people $300 a month to not commit crimes. The goal is to reduce gun violence. It will start with 10 people who want to change their lives and become community ambassadors. Participants will have to pass an interview. The Human Rights Commission says the idea has been shown to be a cost-effective way to reduce gun crimes in other cities.
So this isn't about cash for criminals. This is about supporting and valuing people's time and expertise who can really help us think through how to address the problems and crisis of public safety.
The payments come in the form of gift cards and the spending habits are tracked. Now, Oakland and Richmond have similar anti-violence programs.
You thought Cash for Clunkers was bad. This is Cash for Criminals. Oh, my gosh.
You've got to be kidding me. I mean, when they interviewed somebody that was, I think I talked about it last week, that they go, that they rob, pillage, and plunder in New York, and then they go down to Florida and sell their wares and make money. And they go, well, why don't you just stay in Florida and do your robbing and whatever down there? Oh, no, they'll put you in jail down there.
Yeah.
So, what would be a deterrent besides money?
Let's
If
see.
only there was a solution.
If we just had a DA that actually prosecuted crimes, what do we do? $300 a month. I've got a couple of guns that I've had for years that's never shot anybody. Where's my money? I should get back pay for this. They've never even aimed at anybody, unless you count the Osama bin Laden, the paper target at the range, which is always fun. They normally have Osama. They had Saddam Hussein at one point. I mean, it's whoever the bad guy of the week is. They've got a paper target for that. But yeah, I mean, that's the only time they've ever pointed at anybody, which, it's on paper. So anyway, I think that's pretty interesting. And if San Francisco can do it, let's just roll it out across the nation. I think
it's already being done in Oakland. And didn't they say Richmond, which is in Virginia?
Maybe there's a Richmond in California. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It's okay. It's
not Richmond, Virginia.
Speaking of Virginia, one of their legislators who is wonderful common sense. I think he used to be a SEAL, or maybe he was in the Army as a Ranger. I don't remember which. It's one of the two. But he has very good common sense. And they were trying to take away guns and stuff there. And he goes, look, it's just not going to happen. And so, you want somebody that hasn't. I've taught my daughter, who is under the age you're saying that should be allowed to even touch a gun. And if she were to touch that gun and somebody was invading our home, which is out in the country, so good luck on getting any police by within 15, 20 minutes. It's over. Yeah, not going to happen. Then I'm going to be liable because somebody was breaking down the door and they're now laying there dead. That's my fault. It's like, no, you're not doing this. This is stupid.
And there's a lot of people who don't like that castle law or the stand your ground law or whatever. I think it's a fantastic thing because you cannot count.
I got no problem.
Where I live too, I'm in the same. Unless there's a cop nearby, just on a fluke, then yeah, it's the nearest cop station or nearest barracks or whatever is at least 10, 15 minutes away. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
so,
I've got plenty of things to take care of stuff.
In the state of Georgia,
leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly. In the state of Georgia, if somebody is threatening you and they're on your property, nobody wants to do this, but it's nice to be able to know that the state government, at the very least, has got your back if you have to defend your family. I hate it for some states; they don't have that kind of thing.
Well, you've got a small town in your state, and I do in mine that's what is it, 10, 12 minutes from me, something like that, where it's a mandatory law in the town. Every home needs to have a firearm.
Oh yeah, Kennesaw, Georgia. It's been like that for a long time. Yep.
Yeah, and you know what? Not much problem there.
Nope.
Are you going to roll the dice that somebody's not going to use it?
See, that's the thing about violent crime. I mean, you look at all these cities where guns are almost impossible to get. As a matter of fact, that clip from San Francisco, there was a commentary on the front and the back of it, and he lives in San Francisco, and he was talking about, he goes, it's almost impossible to get a concealed carry permit in California, let alone San Francisco. And they don't, for some reason, the people on the left do not correlate that with the gun violence. Well, I mean, if you're a criminal and you want to go and maybe rob a store, if you don't know if the guy behind the counter has got a gun tucked in his waist, then, if you know it's illegal for him to have a gun tucked in his waist, you're going to be much more bold and go in there and do what you want to do and steal the money out of the cash register. But if you don't know, that's a problem. I've seen videos to where it's like the guy pulls out a gun right there. It's like, as long as that gun is pointing at you, again, in the state of Georgia, if you got a gun pointing at you, you can drop them right where they stand and have it, and you will be just fine.
Yeah, it's the areas that have the highest degree of gun violence are all the ones that it's a gun-free zone.
Exactly.
That didn't work so
Chicago,
well.
LA, San Francisco, New
The
York.
schools in Idaho are saying if teachers can have a concealed carry while they're on campus, and these elementary schools and stuff and high schools where these clowns have been going into, a lot of that stuff is going to stop real quick because you're going to have somebody shooting back.
Yeah. They sorry, excuse me. They've talked about this quite a bit, that they should hire veterans and ex-police officers to be at these schools while school is in session, and just be up there towards the front. And if somebody comes in there with an AR, at least they've got a line of defense to where they know that they're going to face somebody else with a gun, a good guy with a gun, before they can get to the kids. I mean, you could pay these guys $50,000 a year, and it would be so worthwhile. And I think that sending your kids to a public school, no matter where you live in the country, it's just dangerous.
Yeah. Well, in Russia, they don't. Average citizens are not allowed to have guns. Seems to be a lot of crooks that have guns in Russia. Just saying, the criminal black market in Russia is pretty prosperous at the moment.
Well, when the average citizen can't have a gun, I mean, you gotta think.
Can do what you want.
Exactly. You've got a green light to do whatever you want to do.
Yep.
So anyway, well, we need a palate cleanser after all that. Goodness gracious. Yeah. We have a Paul Harvey rest of the story, and he's talking about taxes. Which is one of our favorite things because of this time of year. I've done my taxes. Richard has done his, and we both turned out pretty decent for both of us. I hope it works out good for y'all too, because it's I think next year a lot of the Biden tax things, as far as like if you're a part of the gig economy and you start getting stuff from PayPal and Venmo and all that kind of stuff, you make over $600. You're going to get a W-9 or whatever at the end of the year, where you're going to have to pay taxes on all that money, which is never a good thing. So I think that starts next year.
Yeah, that's more stuff to kill the economy.
Yes,
that's all that's going to do is kill the economy.
Yep. And the gig economy right now is flourishing because those kind of things are not in place. But it's fixing to change, so we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, here's Paul Harvey with the rest of the story.
The rest of the story. Farmer Andrew Kehoe was at his wit's end. In the wake of disappointing crops and soaring local taxes his farm had suffered, he was on the verge of failure and foreclosure, in fact. It was the high taxes Andrew blamed. He'd entered a recent political race in the community of Bath, Michigan, to fight those taxes. He had run and won, but the damage had been done, and the local government official that he held responsible for the intolerable status quo was Emory Hayek. Ironically, Mr. Kehoe, in addition to farming, performed routine maintenance at the building where his nemesis, Mr. Hayek, worked, did those repairs and odd jobs for free, which seemed even stranger under the circumstances. But those who consider it remarkable could not have imagined the rest of the story, that all the while Andrew Kehoe was fixing and painting and polishing in Mr. Hayek's building, he was secretly planting dynamite. More than 500 pounds of dynamite scattered throughout all of the places where nobody could find it. Now it's the morning of May 18. Mr. Kehoe is in the same building, ostensibly repairing a door hinge. He waits until everybody's attention is focused elsewhere, then he creeps away quietly to set the detonator. It's attached to a simple clock mechanism, which will enable him to retreat to a safe vantage point from which he can enjoy the show. Minutes later at 9:10 a.m., Mr. Kehoe is sitting in his car, watching intently as Mr. Hayek's building erupts with a deafening roar. In fact, only the front office, only Mr. Hayek's office is spared in the blast, but Mr. Kehoe had planned it that way. For as Mr. Hayek flees the building in terror, he spots Mr. Kehoe sitting in his car. Realizing what's happened, he shouts, "Damn you, Kehoe," and rushes toward the automobile. Mr. Hayek's only a yard or two away when Mr. Kehoe triggers a second bomb inside the car itself. When authorities arrive at the scene, they find the building in smoking rubble, 38 dead, 43 critically injured, more than 100 burned, slashed by debris, in shock, or all three. And where the bomber's automobile was parked, there's only an engine and parts of 4 wheels and nothing more. Not a trace of either Andrew Kehoe or Emery Hayek was ever found. As it turns out, there was a clock-timed third explosion that morning in which Mr. Kehoe's farmhouse and outbuildings were destroyed, and his wife's body was found in those ashes. So in all, 46 people died by dynamite that day. 37 of those victims were young children. For Emery Hayek was the community of Bath's school superintendent. It was rising school taxes which Andrew Kehoe, a school board member, had battled so vigorously, yet unsuccessfully. It was the community school, therefore, which Mr. Kehoe in psychotic frustration targeted and obliterated on the last day of classes before summer break. Often we shudder at the insanity of our times. These were not our times. Now you can marvel at that of another, the Bath Massacre, a schoolhouse slaughter in which 3 times more students were killed than in Littleton, Colorado. And that was the morning of May 18, 1927. And now you know the rest of the story.
That sounds terrible. But, taxes.
Yeah, you got a Looney Tune somewhere, and that's all it takes is someone that's just bent on getting what they wanted, and we're not happy about it. So
I wonder if there was any call for banning dynamite after all that. Yeah, I don't know. It's all tragedy and the crazy people. I think that what you come across with all this is crazy people will find a way, just like you said, to get what they want. And if they have focused their mind on blaming somebody, just like a lot of these school shootings, there's normally somebody they want to go in there and get. So
or
I mean,
blame people there for whatever ill-gotten something that happened to them. Just like Nick again, the and I can't remember his last name, the legislator in Virginia was talking about. I was of that ill where he said we used to go to school because I lived out in the country at the time and would go to school and your shotgun's in your pickup, and when school was out, hey, let's go walk a couple of ditch banks and maybe get a pheasant or something.
Sure.
And you do that on the way home. I had it in my truck when I went to work. It was no big deal. Funny, that never shot anybody.
Nope, it never did. I've told this story before. I remember people wouldn't even roll their windows up. I mean, and the gun would be sitting back there, just kind of in the rack in the pickup trucks. And it's like, and sometimes teachers that were interested in guns. So if one of the kids had, hey, I got a new 30-06, come take a look, and they go out there and they'd look at the gun in the parking lot. I mean, it's like, I remember seeing that with my own eyes. That happened, and nobody ever got shot back then.
Yeah, no, I remember pulling at the time, my old shotgun out that had been my grandfather's. It's a pump Winchester with a hammer on it. Wow, I've never seen one of those. And so we're out looking at it in the parking lot. Nobody got shot.
No. And nobody freaked out either. You know, it's like they just walk on by. It's like, wow, they're looking at a gun. You just weren't afraid of guns back then. And now it's
what the lefties have done to stuff. More propaganda that's out there that if Soros has his way is going to push some more on that. Thank you, Uncle Soros.
But I think that's where we're at. I think you boil it right down. We have more mental illness today than we have more maybe undiagnosed mental illness today than we had back in the day. What the cause of that, I'm not smart enough to know that, but I think that's the whole point of it. Right-wing extremists or left-wing extremists, I don't care which one it is, they need to get put away. They've closed a lot of these insane asylums, and and I know there was abuses and stuff that went on in a lot of those, but there's got to be a way of dealing with a lot of these things, and we're just putting our head in the sand and allowing it to continue on. So.
All right.
Anyway, we hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did. Don't forget you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Or if you just want to hear the podcast, you can go to our website at stayoffmylawn.us for all our past and present episodes.
And we will see you next week, folks.
Thanks for listening. Toodles. Well, we had fun and hope you did too. The opinions heard here today are not those of anyone other than Mike and Richard. If it made you laugh or go, or even, then we've done our job. Sort of. Well, mostly anyway. And if we made you think about things in a common sense manner, we welcome you to the club. And if it didn't, then just stay off my lawn. See you next time.